Like, I've done a lot of things and I've been in places where I am the only woman, I am the only non-Black woman, I am the only young person who is a woman. I've been the only in so many rooms. And I felt like I held my own for as much as I could.
Welcome to the Career Safari podcast, where we celebrate the bold, the messy, and powerful journeys of women carving their unique career paths. I'm your host and founder of Career Safari, Wamita. And in each episode, I sit down with a woman somewhere in the world who's chosen to embrace all the twists, the plots, and possibilities of their career journey. I do this because now more than ever, we need to continue to recognize and document that there are women everywhere, still carrying the torch for us. And in this season 3 of the podcast, we're diving deep into career risk and everything surrounding our torchbearer's most defining and memorable career risk. In this episode, we have a true change maker. This torchbearer's career has been anything but linear. It has stretched across management consulting, international development, and technology. And yet, through every chapter, it's very clear to me that one thing has remained constant, and that's her deep sense of purpose. She's worked alongside microfinance banks in Africa, built programs that uplift indigenous communities in Brazil, and even as a co-founder of a tech company, her purpose was to open doors for others. What strikes me most is how she's carried this drive across continents, weaving together business, social impact, and innovation into her life's work. Today, I am so excited to celebrate the story of a woman who proves that meaningful change can happen. From Brazil to the U.S. and now calling Cape Town home, this month's torchbearer is Sophia Campello Beckwith. Hi, Sophia.
You want me to? Oh my gosh, you've got me in tears. Like, that was so much more than I expected. Thank you. Thank you for making so much more cohesion and seeing the linearity of it where I sometimes don't. Like, it's such a gift to be able to hear some of that through someone else's voice. So thank you.
I'm so excited to celebrate you. This is what I do: celebrate, document, and talk about some really cool women in the world. And you are, as you can hear from that intro, you're definitely one. So I like to start in the same place, which is, what's the name of your career safari? What did you name your career journey?
So should I start with the explanation or with the name?
Let's do the explanation.
Okay, so I was really struggling with this one. I was like asking people, thinking, and I do a lot of my thinking either in the ocean, walking near the ocean, or in the shower. So the main theme here is water. And it sort of came to me in the shower finally yesterday. And then this morning I went for a walk along the ocean and I was like, okay, I've got it. It's Into the Deep, but it's not like that terrible movie that I think came out when there was all those like mega shark movies, but you kind of have a sense of the like magnitude. But for me, the ocean is like, you have no idea what's happening under the surface. And it's both my like scariest place and my most comforting place. Like, being underwater, being in water is that place for me. It's like my sacred home. But I think my career has been not necessarily the peaceful ocean that we see. It's been this like diving into the deep end every time, whether I know it or not, and then being in the water and going like, oh, I did not expect this, or I had no idea what I was getting myself into. It's much colder than I thought, or much rougher than I thought, or those kinds of things. So, but then a lot of pleasant surprises and beautiful things, and a lot of flow and a lot of movement constantly. So, Into the Deep.
Into the Deep. Is that the one with LL Cool J? I forgot. No, that's like Shark Fin. There's
There was also one, I think there was also one who was in the, like, it was in that whole time of like the shark, there's the shark ones, and there was like Anaconda sort of at the same
Yes,
time.
yes. We're
And
dating ourselves.
yes, absolutely loved those movies. Unrelated to my theme, unrelated to my safari.
Okay, so Into the Deep. Let's talk
Yeah.
about early days. Where were you in your early 20s? If I came and knocked on your door at like 23 years old, what were you up to?
I'm going to date myself again. Deep recession vibes. So, no, I graduated during the 2008 recession. And it was really hard to find work. It was really hard. And I actually didn't get a job straight out of school, ended up kind of getting an internship in Chicago, and then wanted to go get my master's. I decided to go get my MBA fresh out of undergrad. That didn't happen. I'm very grateful it didn't happen. But then, so around 23, I was working at Accenture in Chicago, but it was super random. This is the first taste of Into the Deep. I basically got a call from this like contracting company, and they were like, "Oh, we need someone to help with translation from English to Portuguese." I was like, "I'm your girl. I'll do it for whatever, whatever you need. I need a job. I'll take it.
Hire me.
Hire me, I'm in." And then there was this huge miscommunication between the contracting company and Accenture. The Accenture wanted me in Brazil for the work. And then the contracting company said, "No, you have to be in Chicago." So I had like leased an apartment, moved in like within like 48 hours. And then my like boss or client calls me from the airport in São Paulo from Guarulhos, and he goes, "Hi," it's my first day. He goes, "Hi, the agent didn't check the visa requirements, so I'm in São Paulo. Can you come pick me? Like, can you come help me at the airport?" And I was like, "What do you mean? I'm in Chicago." And he's like, "No, you're supposed to be in São Paulo." Anyway, I was not in São Paulo. I was in Chicago, and he didn't have a visa to leave the airport, so he ended up coming back to Chicago. But it was this huge chaos. So first day, wrong country, wrong thing, and the job wasn't translating documents. It was like a change management role for a systems implementation across Accenture corporate as like an internal client. I had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah, but that sounds more juicy. That sounds like a more juicy project.
But it's one of those where like you see the ocean, it's all calm, you jump under and it's like stingrays and jellyfish and like, well,
Totally.
not stingrays aren't even that bad. I was thinking of something that stings, but like jellyfish and chaos. And you're like, I have no idea what I'm doing, sink or swim time, So that was me at 23. I had no idea what I was doing, but actually really, really, really loved the gig, loved the job. Ended up staying for 2 years actually.
Well, I hear a couple of things. One, you survived. Some people, like, especially if that's one of the first job out of college, like,
Yeah.
if you really don't know much about how to be a professional in corporate America, as much as you study, you just don't know until you get in it. But you survived. How do you think you survived into that deep?
That's such a good question. I think I immediately really loved my client, or I'm going to call him my boss. I wasn't an employee at Accenture, but he was like total chaos, super passionate. I mean, how do you go somewhere and not know that you need a visa, Mark? Sorry, Scott, if you're listening to this. But he was wonderful. And I think he kind of believed in me. Like, I think he knew that I wasn't what he thought he was getting, but somehow he was vibing with it. He was like, "No, we're just gonna, like, you got this. Like, you can do this." He wasn't like, "Wait a second, you're not what I ordered." He was just kind of like, "Yeah, it's fine. You'll figure it out." One of those kind of people. And then the teams that I was working with in the different countries were just really, really great and super supportive. And I think I was just like keen to figure things out. I didn't let not knowing freak me out. I asked a lot of questions. I definitely did a lot of Googling and trying to figure things out. But I think it was really that having this really supportive network around me, and then people who, whether they knew they weren't going to get anyone else, so they had to like bet on me, or whether they really thought that I was like the solution, they really were like doubled down on me. I think within like 6 or 8 months, then I was the change management lead for this system across all the countries. But I think it's that it was like really great people who kind of let me make mistakes, let me learn, but also like knew that I was capable. So it's that like self-fulfilling prophecy of surely she can figure this out,
Yeah.
And then that belief was like, surely I can figure it out. And then, I think you kind of take it from there. That's all I can. I'm sure if I really dug into it, there's other things, but that to me stands out as the big one.
Yeah. Well, I heard a few things. One, you were in an environment where people reinforced you, had
Yeah.
confidence in you, and especially early in your career. That's important. Like the first few managers and environments that you work in can really, just like your childhood years, like it can really shape your overall perception of yourself and the entirety of your career. You could either be like launched into this, wonderful space with all this confidence and the ability to take on risk like you have, or it can like seriously damage you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so right. And I don't think I've fully thought about that. I think I've in passing thought about it. It makes me like want to reach out and say thanks. And that really, I think it really was formative in how I approach work. So it's such a good point that like not everyone is super blessed with managers starting out. And I think I got really lucky too. Yeah.
Yeah. And you delivered. And you delivered.
I think. Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess so.
Yeah. So from what you've told me, you're always on the move. Like even in that story,
Hmm.
you're like, "Oh, I
Hmm.
had to run through Brazil. I had to go from Chicago. I didn't know what I was doing." But you don't stay in one location for too long, right?
Yeah, that has been the thread of my life. up until I've been in Cape Town like 4.5 years now, and this is the longest I've ever lived anywhere except for when I was a ward of my parents when they were dragging me around wherever they were going.
Do you mind sharing like where you have lived?
Absolutely. From birth or from, I guess I'll
Sure,
just,
from birth. Yeah.
okay, cool. So I was born in Thailand, then we lived in Indonesia, then we lived very briefly in the suburbs of Chicago and São Paulo, Brazil for about 10 years. Then we moved to Peoria, Illinois for a couple of years. Then I moved to DC for university. During my time in DC, I studied abroad and was in Costa Rica for about 8 months and Italy for about 6, 7 months. Then from there, Chicago, and then was in Brazil and Chicago in between. Then when I moved to EY, I had clients in Princeton and North Carolina. So then was there for like 8 months apiece. Well, going back and forth, but you end up kind of getting to know a place. And then I got a job at Opportunity International in Chicago. And then after, like within 6 months of that, they moved me to Malawi, to Lilongwe. So I was there for about a year. Then I moved to Cape Town for my master's. Then that's began the like wild journey of, I think I moved like 13, 14 times within a few years. I went back to Brazil, then I went to England for a very brief stint to Bristol, then back to South Africa, back to Brazil, and Zambia, Mozambique, Brazil. Then I got stuck in the US during COVID. As consulates closed, they had my passport. So I was in Colorado for the 2020, beginning of 2021, moved to South Africa. And I've mostly been based here, but I travel a lot. Like I've been home about 3 weeks in the last 3 months.
Clearly, you have to pack light.
Yeah, which interestingly enough, you had asked me to like pick some photos for this, and I found this hilarious photo of me in my storage unit, which I still have in Chicago. I'm not proud to say I don't pack as light as I might seem to with my travel.
But I'm sure you have collected some great stuff along the way.
Yes, absolutely. I've definitely decorated very slowly and intentionally.
Yeah. So I think like you clearly love to travel, you're open to traveling, you're open to living in different places. So management consulting would probably be like is like right up your alley because there's a lot of that happens in that field.
Hmm.
But you didn't stay in management consulting.
Yeah.
You went from, I think you said Accenture, EY, maybe another place. Why didn't you stay in that space?
Such a good question because there was a lot of pressure to stay from lots of different angles. I studied international relations undergrad. My focus was environmental systems and conservation, and Latin America were my two concentrations. And I always thought I was going to go into like diplomacy, government, something like that. Actually, had never really looked very much at Africa in terms of like content and subject matter. So I was very much stuck in the Americas, if you will. And so when I had this when I was feeling kind of stuck at EY, and not because of the culture, not because of the company. I actually really loved the team. I loved having so many resources and being able to do so much, but I just felt like the work wasn't resonating. Like on a daily basis, I wasn't waking up and going, yes, like restructuring a corporate, fun, no shade. But that wasn't like getting me up in the morning. And it was like a lot of travel. I was earning well for my age, but like I didn't have the time to like really spend on the things that I cared about. And so it was a tough decision. And I had like spoken to a mentor of mine who was she worked at a foundation that was a donor to Opportunity International, where I ended up going to work in microfinance. And she said, why don't you meet with the CEO at the time and like, see about options? And then all of a sudden I just felt so much more connected to everything I had studied, everything like that I was passionate about. And I was like, okay, cool. I can do a lot of these same like consulting-esque type projects, but with the subject matter that I'm like more interested in. So it felt like a really natural transition back into like where I wanted to be. But I felt like I got this amazing base of like boot camp of skills and ways of working and culture that to this day I think really define how I show up to work from my management consulting background. And I do miss it in certain ways. Like I miss the drive of a lot of people, a lot of the ambition, like being surrounded by so many high achievers.
Yes.
Like that really is like super motivating, but it can also be really like difficult at times. So, but anyway, yeah. So that's why I ended up leaving. I felt like I was ready to do something that was more aligned like with my passion, what I've studied. I think it was a tough decision because you're giving up this earning potential and like a pathway to, everyone's like, oh, pathway to partner. And you're like, my gosh, what am I sacrificing? And it's a lot of pressure for like a 25, 26-year-old. But I think also on the other hand, my naivete was like, oh, you can just do what you want. Like, yeah, this is an option. Let's go there.
So let's go back to like your graduating years. So when you graduated,
Mm.
What did you wanna do other than, like, find a job? Obviously, we all want to.
Well, when I went to DC, my whole life, I thought I was going to be a lawyer, and like in diplomacy lawyer. Like I was one of those model UN people. I loved it. I loved all things United Nations, all things diplomacy, all of that. And when I got to DC, I like the first year I had like a 6-month internship in diplomacy basically, and I will not name names, and I was like, I absolutely don't want this. I don't want to work in the space. This is not for me. So then it was actually really tough the next 4 years, and I will say it was a really different place than we are now. Like there wasn't that much like career coaching. It was kind of like you do what you're passionate about and you take the classes that are part of your major and you do these things. So I wasn't really planning that much, and I do feel like I missed a lot of those opportunities. I think like my parents didn't know that much. We were like my mom didn't do university in the US. My dad had, but like many years ago, and he was like a student athlete, so it was very different. So I didn't really know really what I was doing. I kind of showed up and was picking classes based on what I liked, and then I just assumed I would graduate and get a job. Like that's just what everybody does. But I mean, I didn't even know management consulting was a type of work when I graduated university. Like no one had told us about those things. Like I just assumed I'd work for some nonprofit, and I had worked for a nonprofit in DC, an indigenous land rights nonprofit for like 3 years, which I really loved. And they were like, "Oh no, we'll hire you. We'll hire you when you graduate." And then unfortunately, they disbanded by the time I had graduated university, and that was really tough because I kind of was like, "That's what I wanted to do." So I thought that was going to be where I ended up. And those were the types of jobs I was applying to, but it was impossible to find work. I mean, the Accenture thing was completely random. And I had done a bunch of translation for this nonprofit in DC. So I was like, oh, cool. I've done that before. I did simultaneous interpretation at a UN caucus for Indigenous women. So I was like, like, there's one thing I know how to do.
I can do this.
Yeah, but I honestly like, let me tell you, I had no idea what I was getting myself into when I graduated university. Yeah, it wasn't easy.
Well, also, this allowed you to be open.
Yeah, that's really such a good point. I don't think I've ever thought of it that way. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it did because, I mean, I think there are some people that are like, they're on a trajectory. Like, I want to be a lawyer. I'm going to become a lawyer. I'm going to be a doctor. I'm going to become a doctor. And that is needed.
Yeah.
And then there's other
Bless
people
them
that,
for knowing.
yeah. And then there's other people who could be generalists. And it's like, I could do a lot of different things. And then I don't know how much you feel about, I think the universe brings stuff to you. There's so many opportunities to do a lot of different things. These things come to you.
Yeah.
And it's up to you to figure out where is your place. And that's why I do Career Safari. That's your journey. Where's my place? Where do I feel like I can earn the best, do the best, and give back to this world? So I think that's just, you were open. You didn't have a track in your mind. And you were like, I think I can do a little bit of this, I can do a little bit of that. And then what it sounds like is that you found your place in like NGO world. Eventually. Disagree with me? Do you feel you found your place?
No, I mean, I guess that's so funny that you asked, like, have you found your place? Because I was listening to the podcast, I think from season 2, the We Are the Outsiders with Dr. Christine.
Yes.
Yeah, and she, is using that "we are the outsiders" thing, and I find like that's been a lot of my life also, like that third culture kid. And there's this Idioma Umebinyo quote that's too foreign for home, too foreign for here, never enough for both. And that's like me. That's how I feel. So when you say like you found your place, like it's a heavy one. I don't know if I'll ever feel like I found my place. Like everything feels just a part of me, which therapy has helped me kind of get to the place of like, that's okay. There are parts of us and different parts.
Yeah.
So I never feel like there's a place for me. There's home now, and there's the places that I feel safe and the places that feel like I'm contributing and that bring value to my life. Have I ever, and maybe this is what non-committal people say. Is what I say. What I say 100%, this is my thing. I think my career has taught me that that's kind of a risky thing to say because it changes so often, and then to put yourself in that box is also a risk in that way of like not being open to other things. So not to disagree with you. It's just more of like a me thing of going, oof, to say it's my place is a tough one. My place has changed constantly and feels different from morning to noon to night. So
I love that response. Yes. Yep. Nothing else to add. No notes. Like totally. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
yeah.
There's people who you mentioned Dr. Christine, but there's other women that I've featured and I admire their clarity.
Mm,
I wish
yes.
I could be that clear. I just reflected on season 2 actually, and I
Mm,
took some notes on like what did I take away from each episode.
yeah.
What stood out to me, because every time I listen, there's something else that I can get from a torchbearer story.
Yeah.
It was the people who were like, "This is what I'm gonna do. This is it." I was like, "Dang,
That
I would love
resolve.
that resolve." Oh my goodness, I would love to. And I probably had it at moments of my career,
Mm.
but it's something that I admire. But I don't know that that's not necessarily who I am as well.
Yeah, I can see it and be like, that's amazing, and I'm so glad that there's people that have that, but also know that like at this point, there's a place for someone like me too who doesn't know necessarily.
Yeah. Oops. Knocking things over because I agree with
No.
you too hard.
Yes.
But let's pause on your NGO experience and your international
Yeah.
development work. Reflect back to me. You have had many experiences in this space. What
Yeah.
are you the most proud of? And please don't be shy.
That's, this was one of the, when you sent me the questions, this was the one that I got really stuck on. I'm really hard on myself on these things. Well, I'm hard on myself in general and trying to give myself grace. And then I was like, okay, well, like, what am I proud of? What does this success look like? And actually, it's not necessarily things that I've done, but it's like moments. So it's thinking like, am I learning? Am I contributing? Am I adding value? Am I in flow? Do I have balance? Do I have space to rest? So if I think of the times that I've been like the most successful, the most proud of my work, it's been where I've been able to find something in that sweet space. And for me, the learning and contributing are the key ones. Like if I feel like I'm pushing myself in a new way, it's a tough one when you're learning the same lesson again and again. And I
Mm.
think we've all been there, and I can very openly say I've been there. But when you're learning in new ways and you're able to contribute, that's where I'm like the most happy, or most proud, or feel the most successful. As we talk about risk, I think what I'm most proud of is like jumping into the deep, is like actually just going, cool, no life raft, no flotation device, here we go. And somehow, as scared as I am, or as worried as I am, or as excited as I am, finding a way to either learn and contribute, or both, in that journey, has been probably the most rewarding, or the things I'm most proud of. Starting my own business, having a business partner, going into tech when I'm like, that's definitely not been my background or my cup of tea, if you will. Going into nonprofit from corporate, going into corporate, never knowing that, like, never thinking that I was ever going to be in corporate. It's kind of going, okay, cool. Well, if someone else is seeing the potential here, I should too. And then finding ways to trust myself that when these opportunities arise and I say yes to them, that I'll be able to either figure it out one way or another. And if it doesn't work out, I've learned something about myself. And like, often things don't work out. I mean, I've hopscotched a bunch or decided this isn't for me. And I did sometimes decide like really early on, actually, this isn't for me. And people will say, oh, well, how do you explain like the quick things on your CV or the different changes? And I'm like, well, how am I going to explain staying somewhere where I'm not adding value, and I'm not learning, and I'm not earning well, and I'm not contributing? That's harder. So that's kind of like I hope that isn't like a cop out answer. I can like give you specific things, but I was trying to reflect because I know I'm really hard on myself when it comes to feeling successful. And it's more of like a state of an internal state than like an actual delivery of something?
But you can be proud of yourself. That's fine.
That's true. It's just hard.
And and that usually is the hardest part.
Yeah.
So there's nothing wrong with that. And you can be proud of like moments in your career, in your life, where you feel like you showed up for yourself
Mm,
and you were able to take your power back, walking away from a company or a culture or a project that you're like, this is not serving me, and that
yeah.
therefore I'm not going to serve it or the people that it needs to like support. That is a bold and risky thing to do. And you've done it. So no, I'm with you there.
That's a good point. I hadn't really thought about the like standing in my truth and my values, and I think that's something that's been not necessarily held against me, but as as a kid or growing up, especially as a woman child or a girl child, it's often like, oh, you're so assertive, or they don't say you're assertive, they say you're aggressive or bossy or what have
Yep.
you. And I got a lot of that, and I think it was hard for me to find my voice again. And I did have good managers, but there were clients that I left and companies that I left where I'm like, this just doesn't align with like my values and how I want to spend my time. It's a privilege to be able to walk away, and I know I'm grateful to be able to have that privilege, but I definitely have been able to do that. And And I am proud of those choices, because I do think that in the long run it would have hurt me a lot more than, like, the cons would have definitely outweighed the pros in the long term. It's a big tax to pay.
Yeah. And we're going to dive into risk in a second. And I'll have more questions about that. But you lightly mentioned your role as a tech founder.
Hmm.
So, like, just to summarize, I think where you are, where we are in your story, you find yourself in Cape Town, you're
Yes.
getting your MBA.
Yep.
So, when did the tech world start opening up for you?
Such a good question. I think I've always been very interested in, like, innovation and kind of interesting things that are happening kind of on the outskirts of things. So in my MBA, we touched on some of the, like, tech stuff, which was pretty cool, just different products. And then I wrote my thesis on a sort of on a startup in Cape Town that was using technology. Well, basically, they started selling laptops out of, like, the back of cars. And then they started having these tech hubs for people in townships to be able to, like, learn digital literacy. And then it kind of became more a technology company. And seeing that transition in such a short period in a country like South Africa, which, like a lot of countries in Africa, kind of, you've jumped the landline. A lot of places in Latin America kind of similar in many ways in that regard, but here especially. So started to see some of the, like, the potential and the things that can happen when technology is kind of used for good. And the reason why I went to my MBA was actually because I had worked at corporates, seen all the toxic corporate things, worked in nonprofits, seen all the toxic nonprofit things, and said, actually want to look at social entrepreneurship and see if there's, like, where is there how do we get to a double bottom line? Can you, like, do good and earn at the same time? So started getting a bit deeper into a lot of the social entrepreneurship tech world. So not necessarily your, like, Ubers and Airbnbs, but your fintechs that are doing some really cool stuff, education technology companies, things like that. And in this process, I was consulting myself, and then joined a former colleague from my MBA and one of his former colleagues from another company. We started a consulting business together, the three of us. The one guy from my MBA ended up leaving, so then it was just the two of us, and then we started doing a lot of the consulting on these various projects. And his background was full tech, so he's a product developer by training. He's a designer, and I have a lot of the sort of business strategy, business development. How do we come up with, how do we look at products? How do we look at services? How do we strategize around those things? So it was like a great way to approach tech. And then I felt like I have someone who knows all of these things, or a lot of these things. And we were a great partnership in that way. I didn't feel like I had to know all of the things, but that's how I kept getting my feet wet, or I guess from the getting your feet wet into the deep end, if we're going to keep
Yeah.
with the
No, I'm
theme.
like, you went from, you're a founder.
Yeah, exactly right. So that's what happened. So we ended up servicing a bunch of clients and kind of building our own reputation, and then decided to build our own product, which was a platform for freelancers, mostly African freelancers, to be able to connect them to work in the global world of remote work. And this was, yeah, a few years ago, so pre the last year of really fast AI learning models. But that was really cool. I mean, cool and challenging in a lot of ways.
So, what surprised you the most about working as a tech founder? Well, especially a female tech founder in Africa. Let's be very clear. Not to lead you in, but
Non-African woman in tech, and yeah.
ah,
So, well, there's layers of nuance here. South Africa is very different to East Africa, to Southern
yeah,
Africa, to West
totally.
Africa. South Africa is its own kettle of fish, to keep with the theme. I think the thing that surprised me the most is I had been with bankers, CEOs, corporate leaders for most of my career in boardrooms, meeting boardrooms. I was part of this massive bank divestment across Africa. Like, I've done a lot of things, and I've been in places where I am the only woman, I am the only non-black woman, I am the only young person who is a woman. I've been the only in so many rooms. And I felt like I held my own for as much as I could, and I didn't leave those interactions feeling less than. I mean, I never felt like I didn't honor myself, and I feel like in the private equity and VC space, it was toxic. It was really hard. It's a lot of, like, storytelling. Oh, we need you here. We'd love you to on stage. the tokenization happened before I could even realize it. And then I was like, wait a second, like, no, we really need like a female, or they wouldn't say it, a female founder. But then it turns out that all of the presentations are male founders, and then they like, you're the one female founder. And just the level of, I mean, just between me and my co-founder, and I don't know if we never really openly discussed it, but at the time, but the questions that he would get asked from a VC were very different from the questions that I would get asked. It's like, oh, cool, like, tell me about these numbers, like, why do you think what levers do you have here? And then mine, it's like, well, why do you think these numbers, why do you think you can achieve this? Like, even the tone changes, the way they approach it. It was really hard, and it was very lonely. I think that's the other thing. Very lonely, and you have to always be the person believing in yourself, which is also really tough. And tough, it's not your country, it's not your, and even if it, again, what is my country? I feel like an outsider in Brazil, I feel like an outsider in the US. So, but it was very hard. It was very hard. It was lonely. And I think that was the most surprising thing, is I felt like, no, I got this. Like, I've built the armor, and I've built this like skills for this. And I left a lot of rooms feeling less than. And it's not just allowing myself to feel less than, it's like, how else do you navigate that? And I mean, there was one VC, we probably met with like 40 VCs, if not more. One was female-led that we met with, maybe two.
And do you think that if you had more women in the room with you, do you feel that would have been different, like a different experience for you?
I think so. Maybe that's wishful thinking, but I do think so. I find that in the communities that I am a part of, and I do have a lot of friends who are female founders, and they've shared a lot of the same challenges, but we've never existed in a space where there are more women, or there are female voices leading the narrative. So how do we know that it's better? I mean, it's just a gut intuition that you're like, we make it better for ourselves, and being with women is such an incredible part of community in terms of career. But would it be different? I mean, I'd like to hope so, but no one I know has experienced it. It's really, really hard.
Yeah, it is hard. And I'm in climate tech right now, as well as doing Career Safari. And I love what I do. It's so much fun, challenging, but a lot of fun. And moving to San Francisco now, and being around a lot of like this is where this is the tech hub of the world, tech capital of the world, startup capital of the world, and seeing all of these young, talented, ambitious, like, people with their ideas. And I can go down a whole rabbit hole about that. And this is just like outside of even my like day to day, just being around it naturally. And I remember one day just feeling like, this is really exciting, but I'm happy that I'm here later in my career. Because I was able to like build my confidence. I was able to do a lot of things so that me as a Black woman coming into this space, I know who I am. And I know my talent. And I think it would have been very difficult to navigate that here early in my career, because there's so few of us in this space. And that's here in the US. Yeah, because there's times I'm like, whoa, what is this feeling? Like, what is happening here? Something feels off. And I have to go back and like collect myself. Like, okay, wait a minute. I know who the hell I am. I'm like, what is this? Is just other BS. Yeah. As much as the tech world is exciting and thrilling, and there's so many developments, because you are one of few in this space as a woman, as a person from a different country, can weigh on your psyche.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think you said it best, and I admire you for being in the eye of the storm, if you will, in San Francisco. But I think you said it best. It's like, you don't even know kind of what hit you, and you have to kind of collect yourself. I think that was part of the thing. There's so many things that I found so shocking, because I'd never actually experienced them in such a blatant way. You're in that flight, freeze, fawn thing, and then you have to go and kind of go, wait a second, like, no, and the time might have passed, and you missed your moment, and you feel a little bit less confident because you didn't say what you thought what you should have said, and that kind of thing, or you felt like you earned it, but obviously you hadn't earned it, or in the eyes of whoever has the power. But you're absolutely right. I think it would have crushed me if I had tried to do this 10 years ago, much more than it, let's say, crushed me or affected me this time, like at this age. And I think you do need thick skin, because the industry hasn't evolved as much as it should have evolved,
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the way money moves, it's not in a way that's where it is women centric, or it is intersectional in any way for the most part, especially in the US. So there's so much work to be done, and I really really admire people who continue to work in this space and founders who persevere, like some of my friends in the community I have here in South Africa, because it's so much work and it's so lonely at the top and it's a lot of pressure. Yeah, I there's a special like skill set that is required, and I just hope that the women who feel they're cut out for it and really feel that they're like passionate and they have this idea and they're really excited about it, I really hope that they pursue it and they have the like the resilience to be able to keep going. And also if they decide, hey, this isn't for me, like don't hate yourself. It's okay.
Let's dive into change because you also said you're no longer a tech founder. Like you said, you felt empowered to leave places where you felt like it wasn't right for you. What do you think are the biggest career risk you've taken?
I mean, I think we'll start from the back to the front. I think just deciding to go, okay, cool, let's build a tech product was pretty wild for me. It felt very much out of my wheelhouse. I'm one of those people like I think I have good ideas, but I never have had an idea where I'm like, oh yeah, I will back myself 150%. I will die on this hill from this idea. I think taking that risk was huge. I never in my life would have thought, like if you had told me any time before that, even like a few months before that, that that's where I was going to end up, I don't think I would have believed you. So for me, that's been probably one of the biggest adventures. For a while, a safe place to learn about so many things that I didn't know about. And I just felt like a kid again, like you're discovering so many things that you had no idea how they work and how things go together. And so for me, that was probably the biggest risk, was that. And then probably the other biggest was leaving. I think risk, or I wouldn't necessarily say as a risk, but it was kind of going, this was great for this season, but it's not for me. It wasn't where I saw myself in the long term. It didn't fulfill some of the needs that I had for myself after like learning so much, and to be able to say, actually, like, this is super cool. This was a great season, but I'm gonna walk away now. It was
Mm.
really tough. And I think I probably look back on it with a bit more rose colored glasses than I felt at the time, because it does feel a bit like failure, or you're not good enough, or what did I do wrong. But when when you really have that gut feeling and you're like, it's time. I've trusted every single other time in my life, and it took me a little bit longer to trust it on this move, and ultimately it was the right decision. But that was a big risk too, because you've just spent a bunch of years, a lot of savings, a lot of time,
Yeah.
a lot of effort pouring into something that you really wanted to work and you really are, believing in, and that you feel like you're contributing to, but it might not be your place, right? Or it was for a while and it's no longer, and that's okay too. But that was a hard realization, especially for someone that's been so like defined by my work in many ways. That was a tough one.
And get as deep into this as you feel comfortable. What
Mm,
motivated this risk? Was it burnout? Like I'm tired? Was it, you know what? I actually want to do something else, a little bit more calculated, or you're just like, you know what? What else? This
the
is not the
leaving, you
place for
mean?
me. Yeah, the
Yeah.
leaving. Yeah.
I think it was the exhaustion, constant, the always looking for ways to be able to to get money, to be able to fund the work, to be able to do it. Because at this point, the business wasn't, or the tech product wasn't generating enough income to like sustain itself. So we were still doing all of the consulting on the side in similar industries to kind of pay for that. And it was really exhausting. And I'd basically, up until this point, I think it'd been like almost 10 years of working for myself. So, you've never had a paid holiday. You're paycheck to paycheck in many ways. You're reinvesting everything, putting all the profits back in. Time's kind of passing. So for me, it was a combination of, I'm really tired. I don't know if I'm the right fit for to keep this moving. And although I love what we're trying to do, I love a lot of the strategic pieces of my work. I missed working in a team. I missed delivering as a team. I missed managing people. I missed kind of that component from like a professional side. I mean, it was really tough. I think we also had some disagreements about how we wanted to do things and how things should be done. And, when things get hard, that's when you really kind of pressure test things. And I think I got to a place where I was like, I need to like pick myself now. And I'm glad I did. And then I think on a personal level, I wanted a bit more stability. I wanted to be able to refill the depleted savings accounts. My parents are getting older. I want to be able to fly home to Brazil as often as I can financially to spend time with them. Um, I want to be able to take care of myself a little bit better, because I hadn't been for quite some time. There's always going to be sacrifices with risk and change, and it's that season of needing a bit more of that groundedness, certainty, stability, and from a personal side, and then on a professional side, really wanting to be back in a team, being back into managing people, into helping people grow, being back into learning and contributing and feeling like I'm adding value beyond that slog. All of those variables came together at a very kind of specific time where I was like, this has been a great adventure and I'm ready to maybe wind it down or slow down a bit or think of something different.
I just want to say I'm so proud of you for doing that, for being brave enough to say, you know what, let me give this a try. I've never been a tech founder. This is a new space, but it sounds interesting. It sounds challenging. I have some skills that I can bring to this. Giving it a go. Like I mean, to be a tech founder, whether it turns into the biggest company ever or it doesn't, you pour yourself into it. You have to believe in what you are building because, I mean, I was talking to a VC before and I'm like, what is one of the number one things you look for? And they're like, I want someone to eat, sleep, and breathe and believe in what they're doing. And they look for that type of quality in a founder. You have to pour yourself. You have to believe in it. You have to put your own money and your own time towards that. And you did. Like that is extremely difficult to do. So I admire that you did that. I admire also that you were like, you know what? I tried and there's something else for me. This was good for a moment in my life. I learned a lot. I made a lot of connections. And right now there's other things that I need to prioritize. And that is very, very real. Then you turned around like, and there's more I can give to other people. So you're now doing other things. You're back leading teams and strategy. Like I'm proud of you. I talk about the twists and pivots and like plots of your career. It's a journey. Some people's journey, it feels like, I became a founder and then I got $1 billion, But
Yeah.
even in their story, it's not that way. And maybe I'm going to talk to you in 5 years and you're like, you know what? I did become a tech founder and I do have $1 billion. Like who knows? Maybe it just
Amen.
wasn't right. Maybe it wasn't the right product in time for you.
Yeah.
But all that to say, I'm so proud of you. And
Thanks.
I get so jazzed up to see women who believe in themselves and take risk on themselves. And that's exactly what you did in that story. So thank you for sharing.
Well, thank you, Amita. It's nice to hear that. As the person who goes through it, you never necessarily feel that way. Like I said, I can be
No.
quite harsh on myself. So it's nice to hear that. And you're so right. It takes a lot. It takes a lot to start and it takes a lot to end. So, or to leave.
What advice would you give to another person out there in the world who's considering being a tech founder?
I think you need to be very, very excited about the idea or the solution. Let's not say the solution, the outcome, the impact that you want to have, because the solution is going to change many times. If you're really attached to like, this cup is going to solve the problem, and then it's not a cup, it's like a funnel that solves the problem, you're going to be very disappointed. But if you're really attached to like the problem you're trying to solve, and the outcome that you want to achieve, and like you can think about that like 24/7 in your sleep, and it's like something you're really passionate about, then like that's your first hint. I'm someone that like I get inspiration from so many places that it's hard for me to be singularly focused on one problem all the time, but there's a lot of people that are like that. They have that clarity of focus. So I think if you've got that, like that's your first hint. I think you have to be working with people that you really, really trust, and through the good times and the bad times will be able to support you and and you'll be able to support each other. I think that's super critical. And I think the other piece of it is like it's practical advice, it's financial. I mean, it is a huge drain. It's a lot. Like again, in a privileged position that we were able to use, we had savings to be able to invest into our startup, and we had a consulting income that we were putting into the startup while it wasn't generating enough income to sustain itself. But that's not always the case for a lot of people. And so just be very mindful of like what financially can you afford and can you do, because it does take a lot more, definitely emotionally, definitely in time, but absolutely financially. And that's one of those things where like I just would hate to see people digging themselves into a hole that they can't get out of. And I would just say like be very thoughtful about that, because financial health is really important, especially in the economy that we're in today, especially as women. And then I think my other advice is maybe counterintuitive, but always make space for like the other things that excite you. We were talking before we started the podcast, like, you were really excited to get back to Career Safari. And I was talking about, I'm also thinking about getting back to a few things, is like make time for the things that bring you inspiration, because staring at the same equation for 24 hours a day is not going to solve the problem. Like look for inspiration in other places, and keep those commitments to yourself, be it like your walks by the water, Like for me, art, theater, music, whatever your thing is, like make sure you're still getting inspiration from those things, because like sometimes the solutions are in places, or the ideas are in places that you'll never expect. I mean, when we came up with our product initially, I was at the beach. We were working remotely. I was outside in the trees with the birds, and I just knew that was like an ecosystem where I could generate ideas.
Thank you. Okay, we're coming towards the end, a few like little games. So this is a
Okay,
this
cool.
or that type of thing. Give you two options. You can pick the one you agree with more, and you can explain why if you want. So just a few of them.
Okay,
Cool.
perfect.
It's time to get your work done. Are you an early bird or a night owl?
Early bird, 100%. No explanation needed. I am up. I figured. Shame. I know it's early for you. Okay, you were like, oh, could we do this at 5 or at 7? Like last night I was in bed at 8:30. No, 100% early bird. And then I feel like the early bird's always fine. The night owl. So my partner's the night owl. I am the early bird, and it is a match made in hell for a small apartment.
Which taught you more about leadership, working in microfinance or launching a tech platform?
Launching a tech platform. I think I had to answer a lot of questions about myself. And leadership to me is looking in the mirror and kind of taking things apart. And I had to do a lot of that deconstruction in that role.
Which shows up most in your daily life, purpose or perseverance?
I kept saying, go with your gut. It's purpose. But then it's interesting because I think through purpose, I ended up being perseverant, but one defines the other, so purpose.
Okay. Which matters most for lasting impact? I think about like all your social impact work, like innovation or consistency?
Consistency, 100%. Innovation is critical, but showing up and doing the work and making sure that incremental change is happening that is the ultimate, and that is the hardest work to do. And I think being on both sides of that coin has made me realize how important consistency is.
Spoken like a true change management expert.
That's funny.
Which city has the best beaches, Rio or Cape Town?
Ooh, that's tough. Okay, so full disclosure, I haven't been to Rio in like 12 years or something.
You have a memory of it. You have a memory.
That's true. I'm gonna feel like it's gonna be sacrilegious what I'm about to say. It's Cape Town, but there are beaches in the state of São Paulo that beat Cape Town every day.
Okay, so we're gonna say scratch it. Sao Paulo or Cape Town?
São Paulo, Litoral Norte, all the way. That is it's like the coastline basically between São Paulo and Rio. That for me is the most beautiful place in the world.
Okay. Sophia, there is so much to unpack in your journey. Thank you for going into the deep in this conversation and really being open about like some of your wins, some of your like confusion and like conflicting points of your career journey. And that is our torchbearer of the month, Sophia Campello Beckwith. For more information on Career Safari, on all of the things we're doing to help women stay more connected and empowered in their careers, visit us at www.thecareersafari.com. Join our torchbearer community, follow us on social media, watch us on YouTube, and until then, please continue to pass the torch. Bye, everyone.